Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum. I am your host Faisal Raza and you are watching Foresight. Viewers, our cities, concrete jungles and population growing at horribly fast pace. Cities are having abundant horizontal construction, thin spaces, narrow lanes. But unfortunately, use of fossil fuels and pollution is rising. Green spaces reduce, urban forests are actually on decline, groundwater is depleting. Majority birds and other species left such regions where the pollution is extensive. Resultantly, urban centers become heat islands in summers and dense smoke centers in winters. While climatic changes due to global warming are actually intensifying the issue. How such a situation be avoided and converted into a favorable one? Whether urban forests creating green walls, rooftop and green spaces across the city can change the existing toxic environment. Whether urban forestry can cool our regions, it is not only the cities but also the towns and our villages. Clean air act as carbon sink, improve soil quality, recharge the aquifers and improve the ground water table and give disease-free, healthy environment for not only for humans but also for the other species. To discuss this very important topic and very important issue of today, we have in our studios Muhammad Ibrahim Khan. He is the Director of Forest of Worldwide Fund for Nature, Pakistan. Most welcome to you, Ibrahim sir. Thank you very much. And along with him, Dr. Kashif Salik. He is expert in forestry economics. Most welcome to you, Doctor. Thank you very much for your presence as well. And online joining us, Afia Salam. She is the senior environmental journalist, and to be very honest, she is the mentor of mine as well. So most welcome to you, Afia. Thank you very much for your time. My first question to you, Ibrahim Sahab, that is it true that unsustainable urbanization, concrete jungles, the glass buildings, fossil fuel emissions, destruction of green spaces and farmlands along with the tiny urban forests whichever exists in our cities, created heat and smoke or pollution islands overall and left humans with such kind of a situation where they face intense heat waves in summers and smog in winter? How do you see that?
You are very much right, Faisal. Urbanization is happening quite fast. About our urbanization rate is about 3%. And you know that the people living in cities nowadays, it's about 36%. And by 2025, it's projected that about 50% people will be living in cities. So this is a very fast rate. And what happens, it encroaches on the natural lands and on the nature. About 26,000 hectares are converted each year to settlements and urban infrastructure. So they encroach upon the forests and rangelands and agricultural land. So what happens then, you see, you mentioned rightly that heat islands are created, and the heat island effect is there. It's already happening, and then it also results into the smog and air pollution, water scarcity and reduction of the water quality. So this really a big mess and big issue. So
and this phenomena is now rapidly increasing because people are now suffering in cities.
Yes.
Dr. Kashif, when just recently Red Cross, Red Crescent Climate Center published a comprehensive report that tells us the horrible facts as the world experienced an average 26 more extreme hot days over the just 12 months. So humans and climate change are also the huge contributor into the whole arena. Yeah. So what about this situation? What about the situation in Pakistan right now? Because that is intensifying in every urban center.
Thank you, Faisal, for taking me to this program. Actually, climate change is reality now. It's no more a buzzword or a scientific word or a debate. Actually, it's now the reality. And you know, observe that, and we are observing in Pakistan, not in the rural areas, but in the urban areas. And overall, if you go with the statistics, Pakistan is most vulnerable, 8th most vulnerable country in the world. And the temperature rise in
Although we have a very meager carbon emission.
Yes, very big carbon emissions. But of course, we are taking the brunt of the climate change, mostly in subcontinent. So with rising temperature and with rising heat waves and floods and all these stuff, actually these reports are quite relevant for Pakistan.
Even alarming.
Yes, even in our research, we have conducted research, modeling research in Pakistan. So we have projected that 11 heat waves events increasing per decade in Pakistan since 1980s. So you just imagine that the severity of the conditions. And this is just not only the summer season, it's happening in the winter, the most critical one, because we have the wheat crop in that season. So rising heat stress in the winter is also very stressing, and prolonged winters. You just read in the newspaper that 40% of the mango crops was destroyed because of this prolonged winter in Pakistan. So we can observe a huge impact in Pakistan.
Seasons are also shifting.
Seasons are shifting. From 9 climate extreme events, including heat waves, rising temperature, floods and droughts. 9 events per year Pakistan is facing, and you just imagine that how our people are responding. And if we focus on the urban areas, the question is that how much we are prepared.
So do you think that we are also lethargic or a bit lazy as well, because we have the statistics available? We are saying that it's okay, Pakistan is emitting only 0.8%, no issue, but Pakistan is most vulnerable as well, and these different seasons and the climatic conditions are actually changing rapidly.
Yes.
Because we are witnessing it every day. So why we are not much cognizant on that? Because we have to take this very seriously.
Yeah, actually we have to take, because the problem is that these information are trickling down into the policy making. There is a gap, there is a capacity gap, because one side we have the information coming from not only the global research, also coming from the national research, because we have very excellent climate change experts, and they are projecting different climate change, rainfall, temperature, heat waves projections for the Pakistan. Issue is that how it translated into the policymaker actionable implementation plan.
That is very much important. That is very much important. Ibrahim sir, all urban centers, including when we are talking about Karachi, Lahore, these are the metropolitan cities or the cosmopolitan cities. Islamabad, Faisalabad, or all others, these are now converted into heat islands, and the effects are there because people are suffering in the sweltering heat. And in 2015 only, there were more than 1,000 deaths registered only in Karachi. In 2018 and 2022, March and May remained deadly hot, and this year too the situation is unprecedented, because we are hearing the news every day that 5 to 6 people are dying in different cities because of the heat wave. So how do you see such a situation?
This is really happening, and you see, according to some studies, the temperature rise in the urban areas quite frequent, quite fast. In Karachi, from 2019 to 2020, the temperature rose from up to 1.9 degrees centigrade. So the temperature is high nowadays. And then in Lahore, it even higher. Yeah, it rose up
and
to
especially in Karachi when the sea breeze is not there.
Yes.
Some time comes, the span comes when the sea breeze is not there.
Yeah.
That is again intensifying that heat.
In Lahore it's even higher. It's 3.67 degrees centigrade within the last 20 years. So the rise is there, and it's really a big issue. It becomes the heat islands issues and the smog issues and the water scarcity and reduction of water quality. So this is really happening, and this is really an issue.
So let me discuss it with Afia, because Afia belongs to Karachi, and right now she is there in the United States. So Afia, how deforestation and urbanization combined with the global warming, intensifying these temperatures and increasing hot days and triggering the intensity of the climate events. So like urban flooding, we have extreme heat islands or the smoke-like situation in winter. So how do you analyze as a, because you have an ample experience related to the environmental degradation and the coverage of all these events which are right now happening and intensifying?
So thank you very much for having me. And, it's almost like you have the two experts over there. So I'm just like an observer and somebody who writes and talks about these things. Basically, what is happening is we need to also understand that all the factors that you have pointed to and the experts have pointed to, the underlying cause is the elephant in the room, which is the growing population and the pressure of the population on the resources, which are natural resources as well as human resources. And Karachi being the economic engine, it sort of acts like a magnet, and people from across the country come over there looking for a better life, which unfortunately they don't find over there, except for those who already have resources and are able to sort of enter the better life, as we call it, laterally. And the majority end up in the Kachi Abadi, as we call them, the informal settlements, which have narrow lanes, which are crowded buildings, not very well ventilated buildings. So as has been mentioned, that Karachi has already experienced a temperature increase of over 1.9, which may seem insignificant, but it causes a lot of problems. But so we are actually, what we have been discussing, the weather phenomenon. If there is no sea breeze, then the days are oppressively hot. We've lost actually the spring for 3 seasons running. We have missed spring in Pakistan because of the long winters, and suddenly we launch into the summer season. But we must also remember that these urbanized centers, the building material that is being used for these urbanized centers is actually contributing to the heat index. Cement absorbs heat. It dissipates it very, very slowly. And all these buildings, whether in Kachi Abadis or elsewhere, they are all being built with that, what is called contemporary material. And that is contributing, and very rightly said that when the sea breeze is not there, then that is when in 2015, when we actually had the devastating heat wave where thousands died within 3 days. And those thousands, please do not forget, were the ones that were counted because the bodies were brought to the mortuaries or to the hospitals. Otherwise, people don't take their dead to the hospitals. Many, many other people, especially the weak, the aged, those already who had low immunities, they died and they were just buried. So the numbers are far higher than the number actually quoted for the 2015 heat wave. And the depletion of the green cover, for one thing, it had always been inadequate across Pakistan. It's inadequate.
You were talking about, we are feeling really sorry for all those deaths because of the climatic changes and because of the construction that is there in the urban centers, no doubt about that. But how we can swiftly improve the situation, as you have rightly pointed out in the very last thing, that is the green cover. So our cities, according to lots of media reports, suggest that in last 15 years, only in Lahore has lost at least 70% of the forest cover. A prime reason for smog and intense pollution in the city and the heat wave as well. So Islamabad urban forest cover, which was one of the greenest city in Pakistan, unfortunately that also reduced by 17.78%, and that is because of the huge construction, and that is straight away from 1976 to 2016. We don't have the data available after 2016. So Karachi green space is among the mere 7% or less than that. Even recent reports suggest that 3% of the green cover also vanished from Karachi. So while having such a worst kind of situation in our major cities particularly, how to avert it, how to have green initiative into the cities, green spaces in the urban forests?
So urban forest is a newer concept. Yeah, Karachi, don't forget, was surrounded by a hinterland that was green. We had Gadap, we had Malir, which was actually the bread basket, fruit basket, vegetable basket for Karachi. And as I mentioned, it's the
And mangroves
population
as well,
pressure.
Sonmiani and all other areas, yes, no doubt.
Somyani is a little bit further away, and that is in Balochistan. So technically, we can't call it as part of Karachi. But yes, it was surrounded by green areas. And like I mentioned, the population pressures has stripped the green cover from there. Now, how it can be averted or rather reversed, it's going to be a big task. There is no silver bullet. It has to have a multi stakeholder approach. We can't say the government has to do it because the government is also us. So everybody has to put in their share. Now, luckily, that the urban forest, especially as you mentioned, the first urban forest, the Miyawaki urban forest, was in Karachi, which was planted by Shehzad Qureshi, and that is one model that I saw and I came on board. And here, when the urban forest coalition was formed, I became a part of it. And we engage with industrialists, we engage with civil society, with schools, and with the government. And the Sindh government, when it launched its forestry policy, has included urban forestry within that. And that urban forestry includes Miyawaki forest in small spaces and other urban forest spaces. Otherwise, the green spaces within cities are usually the mandate of the horticulture department.
Yes,
But
definitely.
Karachi has a fractured jurisdictional issue. So this is why this needs all the stakeholders to come on board and adhere to a cohesive policy, because in one place you are seeing native trees being planted and the invasive alien species being removed, which people are actually up in arms about, because when you see trees being cut in within during a heat wave, obviously everybody gets very agitated. But planting native trees is equally important, rather more important, and they need
Definitely,
that time
your
for
point
them.
well taken. Your point well taken, Afia. Very right that we have to have a one voice across the country for just to get rid of this phenomena, and particularly for having green spaces. And very rightly pointed out that we have to go for this greenery and all that. Particularly when we're talking about Dr. Kashif, that what's the Canon effect? How it actually retards the natural circulation of air, whether it is because of the close construction of the building, as Afia was rightly pointing out, the narrow lanes as well, very densely populated and dense buildings, concrete jungles over there. Do you think that implementing building codes, change in construction material, as Afia was stressing upon, and methods of construction as well, because we are extensively using cement, the different sort of paints which are actually absorbing heat, and we are using the bricks even. Those are also intensifying heat phenomena. So natural solutions to the issues, can we change the overall scenario?
Yeah, of course, it is important. But before going to this question, I just want to highlight that, of course, we are sad that lots of people have gone because of heat waves. But what about the people who are still alive? We can't understand their dilemma in terms of their health. Health of women, the pregnant women, and the
Infants, particularly, the elderly people.
So those who are left behind, those who are still alive, we need to understand their health, education, and psychological issues, because they are still living and they are their health issues are actually
Unfortunately, we are not much focusing on psychological and mental issues related to the climate change, heat waves, smog, and all other phenomena.
Because it runs into the generations. If you have to focus on the mental issues, you need, you should have to, because otherwise your generations or next generations maybe lag behind. So coming to this canyon effect and all these building of when you're looking into the building codes in Pakistan, I was just looking before coming to the program, there is a building code policy in 2021, and I just tried to search climate change or environment or temperature word in that document. I couldn't find a 600 page, over than 600 page document. I couldn't find that debate in that building codes. So that's And if you look into the task force, there is a 41 members in that task force, and most of them are engineers. So my point is that we need to inclusive stakeholder engagement during this policy making. Not only the engineers.
So what about the green construction phenomenon? So
Yes.
whether that if that is not existing even, so how that is going to be implemented?
Yes, we need to bring the town planners, we need to bring the horticulturists, business enterprises who are there doing business in the urban areas.
But what about those areas which are already constructed? How to just ventilate all those areas? How to convert them in green buildings and green construction? Because that is already there. You have to do it.
One of the ways this is the rooftop gardening, and it is successfully around the world and around the globe. We need to organize the women in our houses, the school children's, give them the capacity to grow these type of not the horticulture crops, but also the fruit vegetable crops in the rooftop, in the other.
So Ibrahim sir, your point well taken, Dr. Kashif. Ibrahim sir, how much urban forests and dense green zones, as Dr. Kashif is talking about, these are necessary to cool our cities and the towns and even villages. What about indigenous trees, as Afia was talking about? And we have raised this issue in earlier program as well. So not in terms of beauty and appearance, because we are much on focusing on trees' beauty and appearance rather than how much they are dense, weather resistant, having canopy cover, shady, as best carbon sinks, or mitigating the climatic changes and etc.
First of all, I will just clarify that what is urban forest.
Yes.
Urban forest is mistaken by the Miyawaki forest. It's not Miyawaki forest only, but it's all kinds of tree cover present within the urban.
Miyawaki forest is a kind of a phenomenon.
Well,
That
it's
is yes,
one
definitely,
type.
definitely.
There are several there are plantation, linear plantations, homestead gardens, and where there are tree covers, and there are parks, and there are different tree covers. So they are all called urban forests, and even the agroforestry on the periphery of the urban areas, they are also called urban forests. So coming to the point that how much is needed, our cities have less than 7% of forest tree cover, so it's not enough,
Unfortunately.
and there is actually an estimate that per person there should be 15 square meter of tree cover. If Karachi has 20 million population, so it needs 30,000 hectare of tree cover. So that should be the minimum. So we need that to maintain that cover, to enable that city to have a breathing space and to just have a healthy environment for the residents. So we need that 30,000 hectares for Karachi only. So even in the periphery and in the suburban areas, the encroachment is going on. The nature land is encroached by the slums, and even the slum areas, even that they are in the worst position because they don't have tree cover. They have congested houses that don't have space to plant trees, so they are suffering more than the posh area. So
Definitely.
there is also like a marginal community and a slum area community so there is a difference. So we need that to like focus on those slum areas.
But unfortunate thing is, Ibrahim sir, you know better that most of the urban areas and their surroundings, even agricultural land, and even if we have some forests, those are ruined because of the land mafias and the construction, which is heavily, lots of construction. So they are just cutting down those trees and all that is happening. So Dr. Kashif, when the National Forest Policy 2021 mandates that at least 25% of the urban areas should have to be covered by forests. International standards of the urban green forest cover is at least 40%. So any policy of enforcement, stern implementation, and saving the artificial forests, even including Miyawaki or all that, even Changamanga.
Yeah.
So why not? Why not that is there?
One is that a priority by the government, by the public departments, that the priority need to be set. because in the winter we cry about the smog, and in the summer we look for the heat wave. So and we forget when it's over. So that's need to be continuously over the year. The work should be carry on the mitigation measures. One is the Changamanga, which is the lungs for the Lahore.
Obviously,
but
it is
70% is deforested, and this. So my point is that urbanization is going to happen. You can't stop it. Even it's the natural growth. If you stop the migrants coming into the city, but even the natural growth may populate the city. So the solution might be the intermediate cities.
Dr. Kashif, here we take a very short break. Viewers, we have a very short break. Soon after we will resume our program where we end. Viewers, welcome to the program Foresight after the news break. We will having lots of questions pending. So, Afia, plantation campaigns and measures regarding the heat waves are on. But why the urban forestry remains a neglected area in research and development, even in implementation phase in the city administrations, it is not taken seriously even at the citizens level. So, why we don't realize that the vitality of greenery and rejuvenating the biodiversity through forestry?
So urban forestry, for one thing, whether linear or the Miyawaki method, is not an easy thing to do. You know, to nurture a forest.
When Ibrahim sahab, unfortunately, deforestation in Pakistan is at peak, rather afforestation or reforestation. Having only 5 trees per person, you have rightly mentioned about the overall surface area of that, against the world's average of 422 trees, while population is growing almost at 3% rate, putting more pressure on the forest cover. So how do you see such a situation, and how we can cope up?
Yeah, you rightly mentioned that actually we need to provide alternatives, alternative solutions, because the function of forestry now is changing from production to ecological services. So it's more important that they are looked at a comprehensive way, in integrated way, considering the production aspect also, but considering the ecological services also in the biodiversity aspect. So we need to have a balance. So in that context, our forests are very much fragile. The ecosystem is very much fragile, and they are very much like sensitive to various pressures like ecological pressures or climatic pressures and even human pressures, and they are affected quickly by these pressures. So we need to have a comprehensive approach, a very proactive approach to conserve these forests, and also ensure that there are alternative options. Otherwise we won't be able to then have a balance and stop this deforestation and forest degradation.
So, Dr. Kashif, whether we have tested the efficacy of Miyawaki technique, would it be feasible for Pakistan? Because we have tried our bit. We have seen in Karachi, we have seen in Lahore as well. Most of the climatologists, they believe that we are in subtropical zone and having annual rainfall about 170 to 250 millimeters, while Japan lies in actually in equilateral zone. So equatorial zone actually permits Japan to have Miyawaki forest and all that, because the annual rainfall is about 1,600 millimeters. So how do you see such a scientific thing at which we can move on with Miyawaki as well?
Yeah, of course. And if you go to the history during the Mughal era, Lahore is a city of gardens.
Yes, it is.
So
Still
we
it
have
is, but
we have
unfortunately-
centuries back we have tested that Mewaki approach. So why not now? Because we have our own species which can grow on this rainfall level. Or so I think it's very much practical. But the question is that with these mega cities, Lahore, Karachi, and Peshawar, where is the spaces for such plantations? So my thought when I was thinking about this is one way is to actually go for the intermediate cities which are smaller yet, and there is space for such things, so that cities are also growing. So go for the urban planning, master planning for those cities, and bring allocate spaces for such.
Yeah, definitely.
projects.
Planning is very important,
Yes.
no doubt about that. Afia, we were having the earlier question that was that the plantation campaigns going on, measures regarding the heat waves, that government is very cognizant and sensitive on that as well. But why the urban forestry remains a neglected subject when it comes to research and development? Even in the city administration, but citizens are not taking it very seriously. Why we don't realize that the vitality of the greenery and rejuvenating the biodiversity through forest is very important and inevitable?
So one, of course, is a resource constraint issue. Don't forget that urban forestry, especially if you're trying to grow a Miyawaki forest, it requires a certain technique. It requires resources, concentration of resources in a small space, and then the ownership, the maintenance. You know, I'm very sorry, but these replantation campaigns, if they are not thought through, then they don't really bring you much benefit. You have seen people launching tree plantation campaigns in the height of the heat wave. Now, I'm not doubting the intention, the good intentions. Everybody wants to see plants and trees around them, but they also need to know which and when to plant. And unfortunately, planting trees during the heat wave is actually compromising, their mortality, the chances of survival. So that is one thing. The other thing is that Miyawaki can be done, like I mentioned earlier, in small spaces. Now, there are so many parks that need to be rehabilitated. The first ever Miyawaki forest was also in a plot which was a designated park, which was being used as a rubbish dump. So it could be done there. In Lahore, you've seen the Liberty Square. That has been transformed into an urban forest. There are enclosed spaces actually encourage people to be able to have that confidence that somebody will be there to look after it. So parks, factories, schools, hospitals, churches, all these places, it's easier to plant these small corners of urban forestry. And I think that should be encouraged. Don't forget this, in Pakistan, this is just a 4-year-old concept. The first one was planted just about 4 years ago. So
So,
it'll take.
Afia, do you think that beside testing the Miyawaki technique, you are absolutely right that we have to just cover up all those spaces which are available in cities and all urban centers. But why not to have a little emphasis upon the green patches as well, like walls and rooftops, to help that also help us to reduce at least a little bit of temperature, at least help in vanishing the heat islands as well, develop some sort of a carbon sinks, increase the air quality, and the lesser the severe impacts of the health risks and all that. So
Two aspects to it. We must also remember that this can't be looked at in isolation. Definitely, we should have green roofs that will reduce the temperature. But in 4, 5, on all the 70%, if I talk of my city, Karachi, is Kachi Abadi. Who owns the roof? Who will take ownership of whatever is being done on that roof? So that comes, that is the problem, that if you plant something, if you grow something, who's going to nurture it? That is one thing. It can be done. There needs to be greater awareness, but then there's the other problem, water availability. There isn't water available for the humans who are living in those places. How are they going to
obviously,
spare
yes, it
water
is,
for
yes.
the plants? So we have to be very smart about this. So this is why, although you mentioned that in Japan, we are no comparison to Japan. This is why native trees are important, because native trees thrive in the native environment. If Karachi is an arid area, the trees that are native to Karachi will not require extensive watering in spaces like urban forest, whether they are Miyawaki or whether they are any other linear forest. Karachi also has the advantage of being a coastal city, and there the mangroves are the biggest carbon sinks over there. So we need to take care of the mangroves. We need to focus on those. There's so many things that can be done. It's just that my problem is that isolation or isolated interventions do not really translate into a good result. We have to
You are
get
absolutely
everybody
right,
sitting
because
on
that
the
is
table.
happening across the country. Isolated efforts are there, but unfortunately those efforts must have to be coupled with the national campaign, and we all have to be sensitized on that. Every citizen has to take part in that. Ibrahim sahab, how urban forests help actually improve the soil health, decrease the stormwater runoff, because that is the main problem during urban flooding, particularly recharging the aquifers, because that allows rainwater to filter and infiltrate into the ground and rise the aquifer storage and rise the level of underground water. So it's particularly vital for cosmopolitan cities like Karachi, particularly Lahore and all others. So increasing the water levels, so which is right now at the dangerous level. We are facing it every day, as Afia is rightly pointing out, that who will actually, we don't have the drinking water available. So how that water will be available in a sprinkler form or tube form, something like that, to actually rejuvenate all those forests rather than anywhere.
Faisal, like water scarcity and water shortage is a big issue in Pakistan. Our cities are they are deficient in water resources. In Karachi, the water is already not there. It's all brackish water, and it's transported, or they depend on the riverine system.
Yes.
In Lahore, the water depletion is up to 3 meter per year. So the groundwater depletes by 3 meter every year. In Quetta, it's even higher. So the groundwater depletion is up to 6 meter over there. So the groundwater is going deep and deep, and the availability is reduced. So in this case, then we need tree cover. And you rightly mentioned that tree can help absorb water, that can reduce the rain splashes effect, and they can reduce the soil erosion.
Definitely.
You see the every mature tree has 5 times wider root system. So that infiltrates the water into the groundwater and into the ground aquifer.
Trees are actually
they are a big
blessing
source.
in every aspect we are talking
so
about.
we need tree cover for
Definitely. Dr. Kashif, what are the most effective strategies for planting and maintaining urban forests for heat wave mitigation? How to be integrated into the city planning and policy to prioritize heat wave resilience and climate change adaptation? We are not isolating actually the smoke phenomena as well, because that is also coming in winter. So we are having very much sensitive on such subjects. So how those effective techniques and strategies would be employed?
I think the smoke phenomena also improve with the tree plantations. So my thought is on best strategies that because climate change is a global phenomenon, but their impact is local. So bring this local government into the work. So local government, because they know every union council, every ward, so the situation and the people where they are living and the types of streets and the building structures. So I think the local knowledge should bring into the strategies, and also the local youth, the local school children's.
Local knowledge means indigenous knowledge.
Yes,
that
indigenous
is
knowledge.
very
Because
important,
so
that because the local wisdom, what we call,
wisdom.
definitely.
And
Afia, your point well taken, Dr. Sahab. Afia, very quickly, very briefly, because we have run short of time. So Why not to have green popularization campaigns by utilizing public-private partnership, as you were rightly mentioning about the funds and all that. That's obviously that is needed for even Miyawaki forest, or we just want to grow urban forests in our city centers and all that. So in collaboration with civil society and media through community engagement and education to promote urban forestry, and I have something in mind, that Green Region Initiative in Pakistan, like GRIP. So we just have to have some grip on the heat wave and smoke phenomena and even pollutions and all that, and population control as well.
So, as I mentioned, everybody has to be on the same table to be able to do this and to get it done, because now, at least as far as Sindh is concerned, it is part of the Sindh forest policy and it will be taken up. You know, policy, the first step is, of course, the hurdle is that it has to be a part of the policy. Only then any resources can be put behind it. So we are hoping to see that. We have seen movement towards it. We have seen encouragement of civil society organizations who have taken these initiatives. But as I mentioned, you know, just growing it anywhere and everywhere where it cannot be looked after is not something that we should encourage. It has to be the responsibility of the people who are planting to be able to nurture it. And in that, I have seen from personal experience that in closed spaces where somebody takes ownership, whether it is an individual or whether it is an institution, that is the way forward. We have to get
Thank you
everybody
very much.
to agree
Thank you
to
very much, Afia. Thank you very much for your time, because I know that it's midnight there or early morning, very early morning there in the United States. So thank you very much for your precious time. Thank you very much, Ibrahim sir, for being here in the studios. Thank you very much, Dr. Kashif. Viewers, as we have just listened and you have rightly listened, our panelists, they are stressing upon that we have to, if we want to get rid of this heat wave phenomena or the smog in winters, we have to plant trees, we have to develop urban forests or the Miyawaki forest in different urban centers. It is very much necessary. Everyone has to take responsibility. Every citizen has to act. We must have to take ownership, either the administration, either the people, either it's the government. Everyone has to take responsibility, and we have to just get rid of or just get out of this phenomena, because the people are dying. Human lives are very important. The species, we have to just rejuvenate the biodiversity through the forest cover. And there are lots of things we can do, but it is important, there is no doubt, that we have to do the massive plantations in cities. Every citizen, city administration, everyone has to take their responsibility, and we have to go on, and we have to focus on the native trees, those trees which are having the resilience to the atmosphere, to the weather, and they are the trees of this soil, because they are immune to each and everything which is available, and even at the less water they can grow. We have to put focus on the urban forests if we want to get out of these climatic things. So this is all from today's Foresight. It's time to sign off. Allah Hafiz.